that bothering you, Pamela?
All right. Well, it is time for us to continue our learning of Ecclesiastes. We're in chapter 7. Let's say our bracha together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lasok b'divrei Torah. And we're on verse 12. Ki v'tzel ha'chochma v'tzel ha'kasef v'yitron da'at ha'chochma techayev aleha. For in the shelter of wisdom is to be in the shelter of wealth or silver, or as they translate, money. Oh, they have an emendation, but let's ignore that for now. The yitron dad, and the advantage or the plus of knowledge is wisdom will live in its possessor. Or, as it says here, that wisdom preserves the life of him who possesses it. So wisdom here is connected to verse 11, Tova chokhmah im nachala. Wisdom is good with, they have patrimony, but it could be inheritance, nachala, or, let's see how I have it as inheritance. Let's see how they translate it here. Nachala. Nachala, possession, inheritance, heritage, property. Patrimony they don't have. That's an interesting choice. Wisdom is good with inheritance and better for those who see the sun. So interesting. I think we should go back to that verse for a moment, because we have to remember that there was this series of something is better than the other, right? We had in the beginning of this chapter, the end of a matter is better than the beginning of it. We had it is better to listen to a wise man's reproof. We have all these comparisons. In this one, it also says better, but it's in a different format. Wisdom is good with inheritance, and even better, and better than that for the seer of the sun. The sun reference is interesting. We had that all over this book. So much focus on the sun, tachat hashemesh, there's nothing new under the sun. It seems like under the sun is actually a metaphor that might mean something about being alive. We haven't really talked about why it says there's nothing new under the sun, whether that's a way of just saying being an inhabitant of earth, or perhaps in this case they're translating as if it's a literal thing. And I realized we went back one verse, but to understand the verse 12, which is talking about wisdom as well, it's worth looking at verse 11. In verse 12, it says, in the shade of wisdom, or the shelter of wisdom, is to be also in the shade of wealth or silver. So you have this metaphor, you have a play on imagery here, the sun here and shadow here, or shade, right? Either way. So I don't know why they don't pick up on that in this communal translation. What do your translations have for verses 11 and 12?
Yours has shelter there, and also mine says, wisdom is good with an inheritance and a profit to those who see the sun. For wisdom is a shelter, as money is a shelter, but the advantage of wisdom is that it preserves its possessors.
Right. So they use shelter for what is shade or shadow. So you have the same thing. I don't know why it's not picking up on the visual here. Right? Everybody see that in verse 11 it says shemesh, which means sun, And then in verse 12, it's intentionally using the word shade or shelter. And I don't know why. I'm sorry, shade or shadow. Shade and shadow are connected to the sun. That's what I'm trying to that's what I'm trying to point out here. So I'm surprised the translations are using a word like shelter instead. Because
Mine
shelter,
says defense.
it says what? I'm sorry.
My 711, the same as Irvin 712. For wisdom is a defense, even as money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom preserveth the life of him that hath it.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah.
But maybe the commentators just don't want to focus on this imagery of sun and shade. Maybe they just think it's a distraction. Everybody understands cell really does not mean shelter. I mean, you can extend it to mean that, but to be in the shade of something, the other possibility is that this is more of a modern linguistic idea that wisdom can be in the shade of
Money, is yours the does your word in Hebrew say shade twice?
yes, shade or shadow. See this cell over here. Cell,
And
bit
Sylvia says
cell.
defense as a defense. Is that what you said, Sylvia?
Yeah, that's what her
Yes.
said.
Yeah. A defense, like putting a fence around it.
So JPS 1985 says shelter, which is what we're using right now. Sylvia's is the 1917, and they use this word defense, and it's funny because it's spelled with a C. If I
We
was,
lost
what's that?
we lost Pamela and Irvin, or is it just me?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I guess they're gone. But see, they'll come back, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then this one, Rashi Ketuvim says, Rabbi Shrag, it says, in the shadow of wisdom, oops, why did I do that? In the shadow of wisdom is in the shadow of silver, which is how I was translating it. They are back. So, Irvin is back. I guess they're in.
Yeah,
Hello.
we lost Pamela's computer there for some reason.
Oh no.
Oh,
It's
now.
got the circle of death going there.
Oh, the blue screen death.
No,
Yeah.
well, where it has that little circle that goes around.
Okay. So
Something happened.
we were just looking at some of the other translations. So Sylvia says to be in the shelter of wisdom is also to be in the shelter of money.
Oh,
No, mine
hold
says
on just a second.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
you're right. I
I
got
re-
it wrong. That's what this one says. But Sylvia says, for wisdom is a defense, even as money is a defense. Okay, why are you clawing me, cat? But then we have this more traditional translation, and it goes back to shadow. It picks up on that. For whoever is in the shadow of wisdom is in the shadow of silver. Silver also, kesef means silver. It also means money. And a further advantage of knowledge over silver. So the advantage of, according to Rabbi Shraga Silverstein, wisdom is better than money. That's what he interprets this verse to say.
well, it's a better protection than I mean, there are people who think if I make enough money, I'll be safe.
Right.
And I guess there do people think if I have enough wisdom, I'll be safe, but more likely, if I have enough wisdom, I'll be able to figure out how to get through life, and that will keep me safe.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, it's
Now, are they
interesting.
making a distinction between wisdom and knowledge?
The word is wisdom. It's not knowledge. It's
Okay.
chokhmah, which means wisdom.
Oh, but then the second part says, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom preserveth the life of him that hath it. So is it the same, both, but where, blah. Is it always Hokmah?
Yeah, it's always, well, it says Vihitron Da'at. And the
Oh, it does say
advantage
dot.
of knowledge or intelligence is what this translation says. The advantage of knowledge is that wisdom will give life to its owner, to its possessor. Now, interestingly, this Hebrew translation of Ecclesiastes, in other words, as it says, Mikra Mevoar, the clarifying scripture is kind of the translation right here. It says Mikra Mevoar, is Ki HaChochma Megina VaHaKesef Megain. So it is using the word shield. So that's interesting. I don't know why. Shield or, protection or shelter, whatever you want to use. Okay, well, in any case, it's a plus that wisdom is definitely a winner in this verse, and earlier we weren't so sure, if you remember back.
Right. It said it was Hebel.
Yeah, the acquisition of knowledge wasn't really. I wish we could find that easily, but I'd rather us keep moving forward because it would be a wild goose chase. Okay, let's keep going. Verse 13. Re'eh et ma'aseh ha'elohim ki mi yuchal litaken et asher ivto. See the acts of God. Because for who can fix what is twisted or is crooked? Ivto. I guess the
And
answer was God.
Rabbi, in this translation, it says, "Who can straighten what he, capital He, has twisted?"
Yes, and that's based on this idea of Eve toe. The O in there is saying his twists or his crookedness, his Eva. Let's take a look at how they do this whole word. Avat is to be bent, crooked. Although it's the PL, so we should probably look down here. Make crooked. Who can fix that which is made crooked? Mm-hmm. Or his crookeding. Which is interesting. And this is right after talking about wisdom. What other trends? What are some thoughts about this? Translations?
Well, mine says, consider the work of God, for who can make straight what he isn't God has formed crooked?
That, yeah, I would translate it as, who can fix or repair that which that which is his crooked making, something along those lines. Ivato, his making crooked. For who else can straighten after death that which he made crooked during his life? Well,
is it possible that 13 is unconnected to 12? It's just like starting on a new theme here.
It certainly feels that way.
Yeah.
Look at what Rashi does.
Yeah, because 14 flows right into 13. It's like 13 and 14 are together.
Yeah, we have a lot of twinnings in this chapter. But before we go to 14, take a look at what Rashi says about Re'eh et ma'aseh Elohim. Consider God's doing. Consider the deeds of God. How everything is prepared according to man's actions. The Garden of Eden for the righteous and Gehenna for the wicked. And then this. Consider to which you should cling. Should you cling to the good or to the bad? So he sees this as a reminder of the question of which pathway are you going to take? Sort of a very Deuteronomic sort of statement. Go with the good, stay away from the bad. Okay, yeah, let's do 14 then. Biyom tova heyev tov, uveyom ra'a re'eh. Gam et ze leumat ze asa Elohim al dibrat shelo yimatze. No, that's wrong. I don't know how to say the melody, but Yimtza Hadam Acharav Me'uma. So, on a good day,
Okay.
be with the good, and on the bad day, see or consider, or in this translation, reflect. So on good days,
Turn on the light here.
so in good days, be with the good. This feels a little bit like it has some linguistic connections to the previous one, but it also has its own ideas here. On good days, be with the good, and on bad days, reflect or consider or see. Ow. Why did you scratch me, cat? Sorry. The one no less than the other was God's doing. Gam ze lumat ze. This juxtaposed with this, asa Elohim. God did. Al dibrat shelo yimtza adam acharav me'uma. Accordingly, that a person will not find after him any disaster. Meaning, as I think this translation goes pretty well with, both are godly, come from God. The good days and the bad days come from God's. Come from God.
Yeah, now mine is kind of interesting, considering if you do 13 and 14 together, considering the work of God, for who can make straight what he has formed crooked. In the day of prosperity, be joyful, but in the day of adversity, consider God has made the one as well as the other, saying the crooked, to the end that the man should find nothing after it.
Yeah, that's very similar to Sylvia's translation. Yeah.
So it's like the crookedness, and then saying, you got both sides. How do you know it's such a bad thing? When something happens, the story.
Yeah, I can see a real danger in thinking that, you give birth to a disabled child and it's the work of God that your child comes out disabled, but then you take it on, you can't change it. So what do you do with that? You recognize that it's both one side of this, the good fortune and the misfortune, you consider it misfortune. They're both God's doing, and you shouldn't find fault with God for that.
Right. Yeah. The bad and the good come from God.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think that it comes from an outside force. Certainly in our Christian world, they have this idea of a devil that's almost a separate force away from God. And we have over and over again, Yotzer or Uvorei Choshech. God fashions the daytime and creates the nighttime. It's all God. It's not that the bad stuff is any different from the good stuff. It's all from the same source.
And what about if you know, we have the huge temptation when good fortune comes our way to think that we are the cause of it, but that too is coming from God, right? So it's not just, it's, we forget that the good stuff comes from God because we think that it's us doing it, but really it's reminding that it all comes from God.
Right. And, you know, I think we already are comfortable with this and feel connected to this idea that, uh, unlike some traditions of asceticism where people go and live, you know, take vows of poverty and deprivation, this says very clearly, B'yom Tovah Hayeh V'Tov. On a good day, be in the good. So there is a sense here that one should enjoy life.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask you, your last line says, consequently, man may find no fault with him with a capital letter. Mine says, to the end th- that man should find nothing after him. I don't understand my last sentence. I understand your last sentence, but what does the Hebrew say?
Shelo yimtza hadam acharav, so that a person will not find after him a disaster or a calamity. Me'uma is usually, I think, a bad thing.
So neither of these translations actually say what the Hebrews say.
Um,
Because the one you have on the screen says finding fault. Mine says just find nothing, to the end that man should find nothing after him.
Yeah, me'uma they translate actually as just anything. I thought of it as a disaster. I don't know where I'm coming up with that. That he will find anything after him, period. That he will not find after him anything. Anything.
I don't know what that means.
That's
Let's
really
see how Rashi makes sense of it. I bet Rashi has something to say. Good old Rashi has something to say. That man should not find anything after him to be critical of the Holy One of Blessing. So, yeah.
So that's
that
fault.
is
Don't be critical. Yeah.
This is the best direct translation. For some reason, the Rashi on the side in Safaria, obviously it came from a different source, but it's another translation. It's probably the old Silverstein translation of the Rashi. And so, you know what? I should probably look that up someday so I can just know. But should find anything after him. But there is here a note that says that it has to do with Rashi seeth the same thought in Job 122. So there seems to be some, I mean, we can look it up, but I don't know that we need to.
What language did Rashi write his commentaries in?
Hebrew. Hebrew with some French loanwords included. When there was a word in Hebrew that he didn't know, he would write the word in French, transliterate it into Hebrew letters. So he was writing in Hebrew, but sometimes he was making sense of words that didn't have a great translation. So he would say, in French, it's the same as this word. And it was a French word that, you know, so it's always interesting whenever it says belaz, which means like in this foreign tongue, meaning French.
So I did look up the Job 122. For all that, Job did not sin, nor did he cast reproach on God.
Ah, okay. So he stayed faithful.
And that's in the first chapter, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, we're not doing Job now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically saying, how do you know this is a bad thing? And well, maybe it might end up being a good thing.
I'm not sure I agree with that, Irvin. I got to be honest.
Uh-huh.
Because it says on a good day versus a bad day.
Right. But how do you, I mean, there's the story of the farmer that he has nothing and all he's got is one horse and the horse runs away and the guy's going, "Oh, this is horrible. This is terrible. My horse. I mean, this is a bad day. Your horse runs away." And this is all the guy has. He's got a little plot of land with one horse. Okay. And the wise sage says, how do you know this is a bad thing? And the farmers, well, this is horrible, this is terrible, my horse ran away. Well, then the next day, all of a sudden the horse comes back with another huge horse, a big strong stallion, a big strong one. And the guy, oh, now this is wonderful, this is a good day. So this is showing you that it's good. So it's crooked and it's there. And the wise guy goes, well, how do you know this is such a good thing now that you got this big horse? And the guy's, oh, this is wonderful, now I can plow more. I've got a big, strong horse to help out. And then the guy's out riding this big, strong horse and he gets thrown and he breaks his leg. And, now it's, oh, this is terrible. My leg is broken. And the wise guy goes, well, how do you know this is so horrible and terrible? Well, of course it's horrible, terrible. I just broke my leg. I can't even, eke out a living now. And then, like the next day, Genghis Khan comes through taking all the people, the villagers, for fodder in the front lines, but they can't take this guy because he's got a broken leg. I mean, it's those type of things where you don't know when it's crooked, when it's in the aspect where Pamela said, a handicapped child. Well, I've known people that have had child like that. That was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. That's made my life so fulfilled. And people that have had good children and then later say, "Oh, this has been horrible." The child goes off and does this thing, and I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, so you have these stories. The person I pulled up on the screen is Nahum of Gamzo, who has a famous story, as it says in the beginning. Nahum ish Gamzu. His name is described in the Talmud as having grown colloquially from Nahum's tendency to react to misfortune with unyielding optimism, in each case uttering a phrase that became famously attached to him, Gam zo letova. This too is for the best. And there's stories in the Talmud about all sorts of calamities happening to him that compared to what ends up happening to other people, like the town being burnt. At one point he's sort of forced out of the town and he's living in a field and he's miserable, but then it turns out that his town is invaded by marauders and everyone's killed, but he survives because he wasn't in the town.
Same type of stories. They're all over the place, but yeah.
Yes, but I know those stories. Those are great stories, but I don't think that's what this one is. I think this is the comparison to Job makes me think legitimately bad things happening, especially because in chapter 1 of Job, that's when he loses everything. He loses everything. His wife dies, his children die, he has skin afflictions, he loses his fortunes, all in the first chapter of the book of Job. And I think that there are situations in this world that you can't sugarcoat it. It's just plain old bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly, there are definitely bad things that happen. I don't disagree with that at all. But I think what this is trying to tell you here is that, where it came up with things that are formed crooked, meaning that it's coming and going. And in the days of prosperity, be joyful, but in the days of adversity, consider, well, God's made this on the other hand, and to the end, the man should find nothing after it. You don't know.
I do like Rashi's take. I mean, I read it as on good days, be with the good, and on bad days, consider or reflect. So Rashi reads be with the good as on good days, be in good spirits. On a day in which you have the ability to do good, be among those who do good. That is definitely an interesting and kind of beautiful interpretation. That when good things happen, you should be a mensch. Right? Do good. And on bad days, reflect. When evil comes upon the wicked, be among the observers. As it is stated, they will go out and see the corpses of the people, and you will not be among those who are seen, and they will be a sight for all mankind. Well, that's not great. That sounds like day, and day of judgment, end of days kind of thing. Very interesting. All right, should we keep going?
Sure.
Okay. And we're on verse 15. How many verses are in this chapter? Oh, we're not going to finish today. That's for sure. We're not even halfway done. Well, we're at the halfway point of chapter 7. Wow, we are taking a while. But you know what? It's very interesting, and we're getting a lot out of it. Okay. Et hakol ra'iti bimei hevli yesh tzadik oved b'tzidko V'yesh rasha ma'arich bara'ato. Everything I have seen in the days of my ephemerality, of my misty days, my days that are, hevel. It's the same word, but my heavily, my mortality, basically. I have seen everything in my life, right? In my short life. Yesh tzadik oved, there are righteous people who are lost with his just being, his goodness, they translate as goodness, but it's really with his moral compass, maybe would be a translation. I mean, that's modern language, but there are righteous people who are lost with their righteousness. Tzaddik b'tzidko. V'yesh rasha ma'arich bara'ato. And there are evil people who have long lives with their evil. What do we call this in theology school? It's called theodicy. It's when bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. So here it is. I don't know that this is anywhere else in the Torah, that direct question about if there is a all-knowing, if God is all-knowing, all-powerful, and perfectly good, then how can there be evil in the world? And why do bad things happen to good people? It's two ways of saying the same thing.
Well, it's because God makes it that way.
Well,
It's what it says above, that
yeah.
you can't straighten out the crooked.
No, but also man has free will. And so with free will, things can happen. Even to a good person, somebody else can do ill to them.
So then God isn't all powerful?
God does not control everything that's happening all the time. No, correct. God is all powerful if God wants to be, but we don't know when God wants to be or not wants to be, per se, to control nature. God made nature, but God doesn't control it all the time, per se.
Then that's not perfectly good.
What do you mean not perfectly good?
Well, what kind of a God would allow bad things to happen?
Well, that's where you struggle with God, because God does not oversee, because we give free will. Free will, and nature's nature. God made nature and it just flows. I mean, okay, an earthquake comes because of nature and the aspect of it, and a lot of people, it's devastating to them because of this earthquake. Did God create the earthquake in and of itself, I would say no. I'd say that's nature that God had made originally, per se, but not on a micro scale.
Well, I'm not sure I believe that. I think what I believe is that an earthquake happens and good people die and wicked people survive that, and somehow we're putting a filter on it that because the good die and the wicked don't, that there's a equation of well, they deserve it or they don't deserve it, that goes that way. And I don't know. You can't from a natural disaster say, oh, the only the wicked die, and if they survive, that must be because God wanted them to live. Doesn't seem like it makes sense.
There is a lot of that discussion in Job with his friend, the so-called three friends, saying, well,
Yes.
these things happen to you, so you must have sinned.
Right.
I mean, that's the conclusion that they come to. And then,
For 45 chapters or whatever number it is, it's like
right.
ridiculous. Yes.
Well, we finished it. I was doing Yomi, and now we're going into Song of Songs. But I found some real value looking at these discussions. I had help from the Orthodox Union Women's Initiative, but it's really it's the stuff people have been struggling with forever.
Absolutely. And, I think we lost a lot of Jewish spirituality after the Shoah
Yeah.
because, there really is not any great solution for that.
It, it wasn't there someone who said that God created the earth and then left, and everything since then has been however it came out, however it flowed.
Yes. I mean, and that means God is so transcendent that there's nothing immanent in that God. So we have to adjust that piece of the equation. Yeah. The idea of God as a prime mover. I think in many ways that's what kind of what Maimonides comes to.
So
It's a little bit of an Aristotelian vision. But I don't have a lot of expertise in that, and it's been a while since I've looked at that. But I think there, in some way, God is not present. It seems. I mean, there is a famous piece in the book Night, which I kind of want to look at right now. I think I have my copy here somewhere. There it is. Where, it's really hard stuff, but Elie Wiesel writes somewhere in this book, and I don't know if I'll find it very quickly. Oh my gosh. For Phil and Sonia Silverman, Ellie W.
whoa. I think okay.
I have a signed version of Elie Wiesel's book. There's a famous scene in here in which he says, "Where is God?" And he points to the guy on the gallows and says, "He's hanging there." And I think this idea of, oh wow. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. This idea of where the heck is God when there's so much suffering in the world. I mean, I think a lot of us are asking those questions all the time.
Well, yeah, that's how you struggle with God to try to figure this out. You can be angry, you can be happy, um, but we do have free will, and if you have free will, it's going to be detrimental for some. Because if somebody else's free will is to cause you harm, then you're going to have harm caused. Now, are your prayers answered sometimes to prevent that? Well, possibly. But if I knew God, why he chose and not chose other things, I'd be a smarter person, I suppose. I don't know the answer for that.
Well, we know what our friends at Rock Harbor Church might think.
No, I don't know what they think.
They might think, I don't know that they do, but many of them might think that the solution is to think beyond this world and look to the next world, heaven and hell. Right? A solution to the brokenness of this world is to say that this world, as the Yiddish phrase goes, though no one uses it anymore, but I had a professor who used to use this phrase, ha'olam is a goylem. The world is an illusion. And the reality is not to be seen in what you see in front of you. It's what is happening beyond this world that will help make sense of what's broken in this world.
Yeah, and that's always a possibility too. I mean, but our Torah teachings is to be in this world at this time. I mean, there's a lot of hints there that something else is after death. I mean, just like when Moses dies here in the next scene, where he's gathered with his fathers, with his people. That it's not like he's being buried back in Hebron. He's not. He's being buried where he's at. And so he's being gathered. So something else is happening here. There's all these little clues, and I don't believe anywhere in the Torah they ever talk about a hell, but there is the talk about gathering with your fathers, gathering with your ancestors. There's that numerous times where it's kind of esoterically saying something else is out there, but let's be here and choose life. You have this choice.
Yeah.
Now maybe that's where things will get settled afterwards, and I feel like I've seen glimpses of this other side at times, but it's always that almost like a dreamlike state where it's off there and then it dissipates with the mist. So, I can't really say there's an alternate universe out there. I've had these deja vus of, gosh, I know exactly what's going to happen, and I've seen this all happening, and it's just folding out exactly like I've seen it in my mind, and then it's like disappears with the mist. And so I can't disregard an alternate universe or an alternate thing out there at all. But I can't put my hand on it and hold it like an apple.
Well, if that works for you, then that's wonderful. Um, for some people, that works.
So in Ecclesiastes, what he's saying is that we can't know what this was all about. We can't know why good things happen to wicked
Bad
people and bad things happen to good people. But the paragraph above is saying, so enjoy the good fortune when you have it, and in the time of misfortune, reflect, because you can't control it. So you might as well do something with it.
Right. Yeah, well, you don't know. It shouldn't be, dependent on what you know, is maybe part of what's being suggested here. There's no. I feel like I think the point of this is that there really is no knowledge of what is going on, and maybe there's another way to make sense of all this. I mean, I see that verse 16 gets into it, but let's take a look at what Rashi says about this, because this is clearly a statement of, and he's probably going to go in a direction of talking about reward that we can't see in this world. So there's a righteous person who perishes despite his righteousness. Although he is perishing, he is nonetheless steadfast in his righteousness. Okay, we don't need to look at that. There was an incident concerning Yosef, the son of Pinchas the Kohen, who had an ulcerating sore on his leg. They called the physician to amputate his leg. He said to him, "When you are about to reach the last remaining hairbreadth of completing the amputation, let me know." And he did so. He then called his son Chunya and said to him, "My son, until now you were obligated to care for me. But from now on you are no longer obligated to care for me, because a Kohen may not become ritually impure from a limb cut off from his father while he was alive." Well, that's... what is going on there?
No idea.
That is interesting. Well, that does not really help us much. And it's interesting that Rashi really doesn't have a lot to say. I would love to know why he's saying this story. I'd like to ponder this a
Well,
little bit longer.
that line, he says, although he is perishing, he is nonetheless steadfast in his righteousness. So the father's dying words were, you know, were righteous, I think is maybe the point.
Oh, so yes, Yesh Tzaddik Oved. There is a righteous person who is, in the present tense, being lost in his righteousness. So he's focusing not on the question of theodicy, why bad things happen to good people. He's giving an example of a situation in which a righteous person was in the process of being lost.
Right.
Well, that's a punt. He's not addressing the obvious, big, massive question. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I don't know that we're supposed to know the answer to that. I mean,
I agree.
honestly, I don't know. So what do you do if you can't figure that out? You could choose to say, well, then there is no God, or you can say, well, no, but there's another way for me to look at this. And that
Right.
is to enjoy when you can, and if not, reflect on the fact that this stuff has happened to you.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
move forward.
yeah, and and taken all together, I think we should do this one last line, because I think it does relate. But what we see here is sort of, okay, the world does not always work out to be fair. There are good days and bad days. There's ways in which good people seem to suffer and bad people seem to thrive. This is the world that that we're in. This is a very realpolitik chapter of Ecclesiastes. And so it goes on, al ti tzadik harbev, al hitchacham yoter. Al ti tzadik harbev, al hitchakam yoter. Lama tishobem. So don't overdo goodness, and don't act the wise man to excess, or you may be dumbfounded.
Mine is a different translation. Be not righteous over much. Well, I don't have to worry about that. Neither make thyself overwise. I don't have to worry about that either. Why shouldst thou destroy thyself?
Oh,
Mine's
that's
more
actually, I
close.
like that. That's a better translation.
From 1917.
Yeah, I think the 1917 translation is damn good. Pardon my language. It's very
Mine's
good.
similar to Sylvia's, but a little bit different. Be not too righteous, nor make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself?
Yeah.
So did they get the 1917? Did they borrow from King James at all or something? I
No,
think
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think that's why it's actually not so bad.
Oh.
But they didn't have the benefits of things like the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? Because they were discovered in 1948. So, but it's not
And they have
bad
the
at
half
all.
and thyself, and because that, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're not using King James. That much I'm almost positive about. That would be really foolish if they did, if the Jewish community used the King James edition for their, the Hebrew is good.
Translation.
Yeah, because that would be, if they use the King James, it would be a translation of a translation of a
Right.
translation,
Right, right.
right? Because it's Masoretic text that goes to the Septuagint, that then goes to the Latin Vulgate. And maybe they use the Septuagint in the King James, I'm not sure. But now we're at King James and then they use the King James? No, that would be really terrible. Okay. Well, anyway, it seems to be like something, moderation even in your goodness, right? That's kind of
Very,
tricky.
very Eastern religion kind of comment.
Yeah. Don't be too righteous and don't be too wise. Why suffer? Why be lost? Tishomem. Shmama is like destruction. To be desolate. To be desolated. To be deflowered. Deserted, yes.
Well, and we started talking about the putting that wisdom is better than money, and now, but don't overdo it.
Yeah.
So, did you ever explain, I guess we don't have time, why people read this on Sukkot, on Shabbat Sukkot?
We didn't discuss it, but the basic idea is the ephemerality of it all, and the way
And
rain is extremely extremely ephemeral and not always there. So, we're so dependent on God for rain, and we have the lulav and etrog to show that. And we live in a sukkah, which is a temporary, not rainproof house. It's all of the impermanence that Sukkot represents, which in a way is what Ecclesiastes does best and Sukkot does best. Both of them say, live your life, enjoy life, and it's not permanent.
That's right. What, and it's the answer to the age-old question, why live in a house without a roof if it's going to rain, right?
The age-old
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's great. So we'll pick up next time on verse 17.
Okay.
All
I'll see
right.
you tomorrow at religious school, Rabbi.
God willing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
all righty.
Bye,
Thank
folks.
you. Bye.
Shabbat shalom.
Say goodbye to the cat.
Oh, yeah. Bye, cat. Bye-bye.